Hi, folks. Now, I hope I'm not breaking any news right now, but we're officially well into 2021. And that makes this week a great time to look forward and make some predictions about the state of cord cutting and streaming for the coming year. But I definitely couldn't and shouldn't do that alone, so it's time to call in some reinforcements. All right. Well, hey, welcome back to the show here, Jess. It's been a couple weeks since we last had you on, but great to have you here.
Yeah, happy to be back. People have been asking for us to collab a little more, so giving the people what they want.
Absolutely. Yeah, so before we jump into this, I was wondering, could you give us kind of like a brief description of what the goal is with these predictions?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is something that we've been doing. It's kind of a tradition at Cord Cutters News. Our founder, Luke, started doing this way back whenever he first started the site. And every year he just likes to give his predictions about what's going to happen in the streaming industry in the year ahead. And after he brought me on the team, I jumped in and gave my predictions too. So we're keeping the tradition alive and doing it again today. And we've had some really good ones in the past. We talked about AT&T and some of those kind of came true. We talked about the shutdown of PlayStation View. Although last year, I have to tell you, Philip, I think you'll appreciate this one. One of my predictions was that PlayStation View was going to come back in some kind of zombie form. And I don't know, things got a little weird in the predictions last year.
I mean, I could see that happening. I guess it sort of kind of came back in the guise of T-Vision View or T-Mobile's T-Vision because one of the execs that ran the PlayStation View service is now over at T-Mobile, so it kind of sort of lives on in spirit, I suppose.
We'll call that a win for me.
Yeah, yeah, we'll count that as a correct prediction then. So yeah, to kick off 2021, I guess I'll start right off with NextGen TV, and we covered this bit during CES 2021, but this year looks to be more of laying the groundwork for NextGen TV or ATSC 3.0. I'm not expecting us to have a breakout year where everyone clamors to get new sets and new tuners this year. Over at CES 2021, they had a summit with various stakeholders, broadcasters, TV manufacturers, hardware makers, and so forth. And they talked about how different things need to happen for next gen TV to really take off. You need the hardware support, you need the TV stations to convert, and you need consumers to really want to make that purchase. And so Sinclair's Mark Aiken really put a good description on it. Basically, they need to give consumers a reason to upgrade. It's not enough to just convert a bunch of stations to support ATSC 3.0. You need to give consumers something they haven't seen before, at least through OTA or over-the-air broadcasts. And he laid out some examples of like HDR programming on, say, the tennis channel and whatnot. But we're going to need a lot more of that, a lot more 4K over-the-air, a lot more HDR stuff you just couldn't do before anyone's going to jump on these ATSC 3.0 TVs in large numbers. So as for 2021, I think, yeah, we're going to see more of the laying the groundwork. And then in 2022 and 23, that's when we're going to start seeing an uptick in consumer interest. And it'll help if they get some like key marquee events broadcast in the new standard, whether that's the Olympics, hopefully happening later this year, or some other event. Yeah, we need to get, or they need to get consumers more aware of the benefits before we really see an uptick in that.
Yeah, that's a good one. I know a lot of our readers are super interested in next gen TV, so I'm sure that they'll be glad to hear that you think we're on the verge of it really blowing up.
We're getting there, yeah.
Hopefully sooner rather than later. So for my first one, I wanted to talk about cable TV a little bit, and really interesting because in real time, I just published a post about AT&T raising some fees for their DirecTV and Uverse packages. So along those same lines, my prediction for 2021 is that cable is going to keep slipping and that cable companies are really going to start moving more towards streaming. And I know that we kind of saw this happening last year. So I guess my prediction is really just that it's going to keep growing to a point where just more households are switching to streaming and cable companies are being sort of forced to follow suit. So we're seeing cable companies losing video subscribers every single quarter. We're about to see some more quarterly earnings reports from all of them, and we're expecting to see those numbers continue to drop. And I think we're just at a point where cable companies are recognizing that they need to kind of get with the times and make more of an effort to get streaming customers. So I also wanted to let people know that Luke contributed some predictions and he wanted to make sure that his voice was very much heard because he had some thoughts. So Luke actually commented something similar. We had some overlap with our predictions. And he said also that he thinks that 2021 will see many smaller cable TV networks actually shut down. So we all know about the big guys, the AT&T, the Cox, the Comcast. But Luke also thinks that some of these small stations are just going to have to fold this year. And I think that he and I both agree, and Philip, I think you probably agree too, that those smaller networks are just going to sort of shift to streaming. Their programming is going to end up on a streaming service instead.
Yeah, there very much seems to be like a if you can't beat them, join them kind of mentality going through cable companies right now. They see the changes, the trends coming, and it's either adapt to streaming or fade away. So yeah, I see a lot of that happening this year as well. I also talked with the folks over at the HDMI group about HDMI 2.1. That's the new version of the HDMI connection that you see on every TV out there. And 2.1 adds a lot of new features. The major upgrade here is basically a more than doubling of bandwidth from I think 18 gigabytes or gigabits per second to something like 48. But the trouble, I guess, with HDMI 2.1 is that a lot of those benefits right now are catering to kind of a niche market of like high-end gamers. With both the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series S and Series X coming out last November, that was kind of the initial moment for HDMI 2.1 because those consoles take advantage of some of the features that the new connection allows for, like variable refresh rate that allows for a smoother gameplay and automatic low latency mode that's automatically switches to game mode on your TV to cut out a lot of the processing that your TV usually does for images and just makes for more responsive gaming. But outside of gaming, really, HDMI 2.1 advantages are kind of hard to come by. So it's going to be interesting for the group to kind of continue that consumer education to let them know, what kind of benefits are out there. Like ATSC 3.0, it's going to be one of those premium features that we're going to see here and there. And if you want it, there's going to be more TVs that take advantage of it. But I don't think 2021 is the year that 2.1 really becomes universal and ubiquitous. But it's going to be another growth year for HDMI 2.1, and we'll see what the future holds.
Yeah, put it in the books for CES 2022.
Yeah, whether that's virtually or back in Vegas, we'll see. But yeah.
We'll see. Yeah, you're right. So for my next prediction, I wanted to talk about one of my favorite topics. For people who have been around Cord Cutters News for a while, you know about my deep, deep love of free streaming services. So my next prediction, is that 2021 will really see the rise in free streaming services, and we'll see more of them. We'll see the current ones grow. We'll see more companies investing in adding their content to free services. I kind of feel like it's the price hikes with all of these live TV streaming services that's really going to push viewers more to free streaming services. We've seen Hulu recently raise their prices. Of course, YouTube TV recently raised their prices. There was a whole thing with Sling where they were guaranteeing that they would not raise their prices for current customers, but we will have to wait and see what happens there. And yeah, I just think that consumers are getting to the point where they are kind of sick and tired of these price hikes. Price was a huge reason for a lot of people leaving cable, and now people are starting to say things like streaming is just turning into cable with these high prices. So my prediction is that free services are going to continue growing, and I am here for it. And I just wanted to mention quickly too that Luke, of course, also jumped on the free service bandwagon with this. He called 2021 the year of free streaming. And Philip, I know you have some thoughts on this too.
Yeah, like you mentioned, like with the price advantage of live TV streaming sort of fading away with all these price hikes. Yeah, I also see a lot of folks turning to free streaming, perhaps to augment what they already have or to dedicate more of their viewing to free streaming services. So yeah, I definitely see a rise in the popularity of that category. What I'm worried about, though, is that with that rise in popularity, that the free streaming service providers and their advertising partners might try to take advantage of that too much, and over time that might actually like worsen the experience, like whether that's too many ads or just a worse user experience. I'm mindful of that. I hope it doesn't happen, but I wouldn't be shocked if 2021 sees a huge rise in free streaming services, but also sees kind of a decline in the overall experience.
Yeah, of course. I think advertisers are really finding the value in these free services and they're kind of getting on board with it. So, yeah, I'm with you. I would love for everything to kind of stay the same, but we'll have to wait and see.
And the other thing is, like, we've gotten so used to on-demand video and just not having ads, but going back to free streaming services, it might be kind of a wake-up call for folks to be like, oh, I forgot what it's like to have a show interrupted by ads. So it'll be a new learning curve, I guess, for some folks.
Absolutely. All right, so I am going to finish us off with probably my favorite of Luke's prediction. And Philip, then I will hand it over to you because I know that you're going to have some thoughts on this, and I'm very interested to hear them. Luke thinks that Apple TV is done and over. He says that he thinks that the Apple TV Plus streaming service will, of course, stick around. I think that they have some really good content there, so I agree. But Luke has been saying for a while now, both on the site whenever he was still with Cord Cutters and now just over on Twitter where he's talking about it, he is saying that he thinks that Apple is just kind of trying to get out of the hardware game when it comes to streaming. He thinks that this long-awaited Apple TV device, the next gen of that, he thinks that it's just not coming. He thinks that Apple is finding the value in promoting their streaming service, but not the value in pushing out another device. So yeah, Luke's 2021 prediction is that the Apple TV device is done. And Philip, I know for a fact that you have been ready to hit publish on a post about a new Apple TV device that we have been waiting and waiting for and just have not seen. So I would love to know what you think.
Yeah, and yeah, like you said, we've got that post ready to go throughout much of 2020. Like basically every time we know that an Apple event is coming, I go in and I update it and make sure everything's current, just in case this is the time that Apple decides to release a new Apple TV. And whether it was the October event or the November event or whatever event it was, they just didn't announce anything. So we're like, all right, we'll save it for next time. And here we are in 2021 and still no Apple TV. So yeah, just because Apple reportedly made a new device doesn't mean they're obligated to actually release it. Plans change all the time. So Luke might be right that Apple TV has never been a huge priority for the company. It's always been kind of an experiment. So it's entirely possible that they could just drop it and not release that rumored Apple TV. I kind of hope they don't. Just from a new hardware perspective, we like seeing new gear and trying it out. So I'd like to see what they can do with an updated Apple TV. But just in case, I'm going to keep the candle burning for that Apple TV post, that maybe one day it'll see the light of day.
We'll just keep watching every time they have an event and keeping our fingers crossed.
One of these days, maybe. Well, all right, yeah, so those were our predictions for 2021, and the only way we're going to see how they do is just to see how the year plays out. So it'll be an interesting year, and we'll see how these predictions pan out over the next few months.
And we will be here to report on it.
Absolutely.
The way.
All right, so yeah, thanks, Jess, for jumping on the call here, and yeah, like our readers have been clamoring for, I'm looking forward to more collaboration videos with you in the near future.
Definitely.
All right, thanks. And so there you go. Those are some of our top predictions for 2021. And yes, big shout out to Luke for contributing his thoughts on the coming months. And as we mentioned, we'll just have to wait and see how right or wrong we all were. But whatever the case, you can always follow along over on cordcuttersnews.com and right here on our YouTube channel. If you haven't done so already, please do consider clicking those like and subscribe buttons, and you'd be joining our growing community. In the meantime, though, what do you think will happen in the year 2021 here in cord cutting and streaming? Feel free to share your own predictions in the comments section down below. For now, though, thanks again for tuning in. My name is Philip Palermo. We'll see you next time. Take care.